This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. It's weighing out and I'm joined by former world champion Darren Barker here in Saudi Arabia. Darren, have you found your week? How are you doing?
Yeah, do you know what? I've had a lovely time. This is a very busy week for me usually at home, so I'm not as busy here than I would be at home. Don't tell the missus, all right? But yeah, I've had a great time, played golf a couple of times. I mean, this is special. This is special. To be a part of this is really, really cool. Do you know what I mean? I remember, not to bore you, but I went to 3 of Nigel Benn's fights in 1995. I think it was 3. And one of the fights was Ben McLennan. And I remember this clear as day, sitting in the stands and looking at people in and around ringside, thinking I'd love to be a part of that, not knowing what they're doing, looking at commentators, looking at whatever, you know, the MC, the medical, just thinking, wow, like I'd love to be involved because I love boxing so much. So to be here, part of this massive show, is really cool.
Darren, you're here, part of this massive show, and let's just work through a few different fights. Obviously, Joshua-Otto Wallin headlines. One of the biggest talking points of the week has been AJ's demeanour with the media. He's been a little frosty at times. What have you made of how he's been with everybody?
Yeah, look, I think he said it himself yesterday, didn't he? A little tense, and you can understand why, because he's got aspirations of really pushing on and becoming a 3-time world champion. He wants that fight with Wilder, and if he was to get past that, he'd love the fight with the winner of Fury and Usyk. So I can understand. Like, I'd be honest, I thought he looked a little nervous as he walked around. But is there anything wrong with that? I can understand the magnitude of the occasion and the having to must win to set up that fight with Wilder would bring an element of pressure. So it's understandable. But I must say, physically, he's so big. Like, I don't think you can quite understand how big Anthony Joshua is. I mean, he was stood up there on that platform with me on the zone. Oh, Rob, how are you, mate? And I was just like, fucking hell. His arms were as big as me. But yeah, look, I think it's similar AJ of late, really. But I hope we see a kind of a performance that is backed with the energy that we're seeing. You know, look, with Wallin, he's quite versatile. He can fight on the front foot, he can fight on the back foot. So I think it's important that AJ sets the tone early. I think he needs to be dominant behind the jab with his feet and really try and bully Wallin, who, look, he's a good fighter, he's crafty, he's a good southpaw. Like I say, he can adapt, he can fight front foot, back foot, but not the biggest punching heavyweight. So you'd like to think AJ will start to really put his foot on the gas and get Wallin out of there sort of late rounds.
Obviously, AJ has another trainer in his corner this time around, Ben Davison. Everybody's interested to see how he looks on Saturday night. With that in mind, do you feel like, I know the win's the most important thing, but we need to see something a bit more special from Anthony Joshua on Saturday night headed into next year? Yeah,
look, first and foremost, a win is the most important thing, all right? Because that fight, AJ's profile is so big. Even if he doesn't look great, they'll still make the Wilder fight, you know, if Wilder was to get past Parker, but that's a conversation we can have in a minute. But I would agree with you. I think he will want to look good. I think the way he ended the show against Hellenius was spectacular, and I think he'll want to build from that, and you do that by doing something similar again. So I want him to commit to the right hand. That right hand right through the middle, turn the hips, and a similar sort of shot that he threw against Charles Martin to win the title against the southpaw. So yeah, I hope we see an aggressive AJ.
And obviously all that talk this week has also been about Joshua Wilder, that deal taking place next year. Haven't had it officially confirmed. Eddie's denied that's the case, despite the reports. How much of a distraction is that, though? Yeah,
look, they'd be lying if they said they didn't have one eye on that fight, because it's one of the biggest fights ever. Like, whether you like it or not, it really is that big. Could you imagine the energy just before that first bell? I mean, it would be electric. So yeah, they're going to have to call on all of their experience. The teams are going to have to play a big part, just you know, get them back focused on the task at hand.
For Deontay Wilder, the task at hand for him is Joseph Parker. As we've drawn ever nearer towards fight day, I've seen a few people start to maybe lean towards Joseph Parker.
I'm potentially one of those. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I think out of the 2 semi-finals, if you want to call them that, I'll probably say this is the biggest banana skin. it's crazy to think Joe Parker is only 31. And I would say probably peaking with his physical presence. I mean, he was so sharp against Simon Keane. And look, Simon Keane's no Wilder, but still, you can only beat who's in front of you. He looked sharp, he looked aggressive, he looked very mature and experienced, which he is now. So with all that in mind, you'd have to say he's peaking. Got Andi Lee in his corner, the man who was part of the team that orchestrated that great win for Tyson Fury against Wilder numerous times. So everything looks good for Joe Parker in this fight. If he's ever to beat Wilder, it's now. The inactivity of Wilder isn't great. You know, one round against Helenius, I mean, that at 38 isn't good. The first thing a fighter loses is their punch resistance, but the last thing that goes is power. So, you know, probably just lean towards Wilder, but I would be far from shocked if Parker was to win.
The fight that seems to be interesting most people and kind of divided opinions out of Daniel Dubois and Jarrell Miller. Your thoughts on that one, Darren? I
think Dubois late, he's looked terrible, Miller, of late. Yet to find any sort of form, and is it because he's not on drugs anymore? 2018 Miller on Peds was a tough man to beat. He really was relentless, fast-paced, for such a big guy, 300 pounds plus. He was so busy, but we know why now. So for me, look, he had a war with Bracamonte. I mean, anyone of a level doesn't have a war with Bracamonte. So I think though, and do you know what? Talking about maturity and someone maybe peaking, Daniel Dubois, the aura around him and the confidence around him is someone of a fighter that suffered the good, the bad, the ugly, and he's kind of ticked a lot of boxes now, some good, some bad, and I think he feels, let's go out there and I've experienced everything now, nothing to worry about, and yeah, I just feel he's the fresher, and he'll, I think my money would be on a late stoppage against Miller, yeah.
Final one from this card, Darren. Opetaia, he's had a frustrating period, obviously having to vacate that title, but he's come through it, he's looking forward to Saturday night, Zorro. What type of performance are you expecting from Mr. Opetaia?
The man, he's one of my favourite fighters on the world scene. Me and Tony Bell, you commentated on his fight against Jordan Thompson, and the first thing we said when that fight ended was, we can't wait to see him fight again. And that's probably the biggest compliment you can give a fighter. He was exceptional. His footwork is impeccable. His power, his chin. Bearing in mind he had a broken jaw against Breedis, and he took a thunderous right hand against Thompson. And he instantly drops Thompson with his own right hook. I mean, he's an animal. You can just see this fire in his eye. He just wants to fight. You know, his personality reminds me somewhat of Mike Tyson, just a no-nonsense, angry individual that wants to do damage. Zorro is a tidy, well-schooled boxer with no pressure on him whatsoever, only the pressure that he'll put in his own shoulders, but he's well up against it. I can't see anything than an Opetaia stoppage in this fight.
Just moving away from this one, I'm sure you were disappointed for Conor Benn, the Chris Eubank Jr. fight will not go ahead. Just want to get your thoughts on the fallout from that.
Yeah, look, I want to see the fight. There'll be a lot of people out there saying they don't want to see the fight, but I guarantee they tune in to watch it 100%. Again, talking about the energy before the first round for AJ Wilder. Imagine the energy before the first round of Ben Eubank. So, yeah, it's a shame, but both very big names and they will have options.
Eddie has said an announcement imminent for Conor's next outing, expected to be international, a lot of talk of America. If there's someone who you could maybe pluck off the top of your head, who do you think would be a good test for Conor on what would only be about 5 weeks' notice now?
Oh, you've thrown me there. You've thrown me on the world scene, I'm not too sure, but like I say, there's a lot of options for Ben because of his name, because of his stature and his following and the backstory. A lot of people are going to tune in and watch Conor every time he fights now, so the options for him are fantastic.
Darren, listen, it's a pleasure to catch up with you as always. Leave you to go and catch up with the DAZN lot now, so thank you.
Cheers, mate.